Hello guys, my name is Hocus Pocus and welcome back to the Minecraft Let's Play. This is episode 111 of this series, and today we are starting things over at Oasis, which you probably would have guessed by now because this has been the ongoing project for a few episodes now. So yesterday we did do a small live stream, and in that stream we didn't really do much in terms of building. Most of it was spent looking at raids and trading, raiding and trading if you will. And for that reason, the only things I really have to show you are that A, we finished up another one of these houses. Instead of putting some hay bales in the small canopy area off to the side, we actually put some chickens in. So I thought that was quite a nice addition to this build and something just to mix things up slightly as well. So we got a couple of guys in there. And then as well as that, we came over to this part of the build and you shall see already there's a roof being constructed. And we've sort of started to develop a pen for our sheep. So this is going to need a lot of work, and I kind of ran out of ideas, so I didn't really know where to take it next. However, I kind of have a bit more inspiration today, so I think we can go ahead and get work started on this in just a second, and hopefully develop this into something worthy of holding the mystical yellow sheep, which are providing a bunch of wool for the village and allowing me to craft more and more beds, which in turn allows us to have more and more villagers. And if we take a look from a vantage point, i.e. up here in the church where I've been sleeping these past few nights, you will see we're actually starting to get quite a grand population here. There's a few babies wandering around, which is a sign that things are still ticking over and that babies are still being born. We've got a bunch of iron golems as well, which kind of makes me think that maybe we could implement a way to farm these guys inside of the village as well, maybe using a zombie or something like that, because they tend to hang out in this corner of Oasis, so it would be quite easy to in-capture the attention of most of them, I'd believe anyway. But that might be something we could think about doing. And that's pretty much it for updates between episodes. So without further ado, you guys, let's hop right into the first project, which is the sheep pen. So just quickly before we do move on, there was another piece of information I forgot to give, and that is the fact that the raid farm now works. So in the last episode, Zaphod commented, Recoded Zaphod, he commented and suggested that maybe if I trigger the raid by flying over this area when I enter the village, it should cause the pillagers to spawn over there behind me. And he was totally correct. So if we get the bad omen effect from over there, the outposts fly around the village and enter over the top of this entrance here, it actually does cause the pillagers to spawn in that direction, and they then find it easier to fall into our trap, which then allows us to kill them. So thank you very much, Recoded Zaphod, for that piece of information. You've saved me from having to reconstruct this thing over in the corner over there, so I'm very grateful for that. Anyway, that was all I needed to say, so let's move on. Okay, so this is weird. I was trying to trap the sheep in this small area here so I could work on this area, make things a bit easier on myself. And as I was placing a fence in this area here, in this block, a sheep sort of passed through the gap. And I've lost the fence, but it seems to be there. Oh no, they can make it through, but how? Look at this, right? So the post is there, and the sort of, I don't know what to call it, but it extends to the left, as you can see. It doesn't usually look like that, but we don't have any fence post here. So I have no idea what's going on. And it just disappeared, and I get 2 fences back. That was strange. Okay, guys, so this is where we're at so far with the sheep pen. I think it's turning out okay, for the time being, of course. And at the moment, we've got this sort of acacia log design with a few of the sandstone slabs. We've got some of the acacia wood slabs in there as well. Some acacia fence posts. The reason why I mixed in a few of these slabs into the roof of the covered area is because I kind of felt that having all of the orange planks was a bit too much for one flat surface. So I threw in a few of the sandstone slabs, and we can, I guess, pretend that they're used to sort of patch up any damage that was caused by lightning or something like that. I have no idea. I'm trying to think of a reason why you would mix sandstone with acacia planks, but I don't know. I don't think it looks too bad, honestly. I thought it was going to look worse than this, so I think I might stick with it. And as I say, we'll just make up a background story for the reason why we're using it. Anyway, for the next steps for this build, we're going to need some spruce planks and some podzol. So I think it's probably about time that we headed back to the base, checked if there's anything else we need whilst we're over there. And I think I also want to try to remember to bring an ender chest with me so that we can sort of transfer things between here and our base with ease and begin storing a few important items in those ender chests. So let's see what we're going to go ahead and bring back with us. I think we're pretty much done here with the sheep pen, and it's looking a lot better now that I've added in some detail. So let me go through a few of the design choices here. So of course, we've got the pathway that leads across the outside, which makes total sense, and I removed the original pathway that was here and just replaced it with the same textures that we have over at the base, because I think this is a big improvement on what the villages naturally generate with. So that was the first design choice. Then on the inside, it's hard to add detail for sheep, right? Because if you add tall grass, they'll eat it, so it disappears eventually anyway. Flowers kind of look strange without grass around them, so I didn't want to do that. So I guess we could use some more of the hay bales here, just to add into the area, make it look like some of the food from the food store has been transferred across into the pen and the sheep are being fed appropriately. We also narrowed it down to 4 sheep as well. I think 4 is enough for our needs. I don't want too many in here so that the grass doesn't get absolutely destroyed, because they do eat quite often even when they have their wool fully intact. And then underneath the areas which have the hay bales, I changed up the floor pattern to match the pathways on the outside, just because in real life, you know, hay bales tend to absorb water and become quite damp, so I'm just making it look as though the dampness of the hay bales has sort of bogified the land around them. I don't really know what word to use there, but it's kind of hydrated the soil, made it a bit damp and a bit boggy, that kind of thing. And I think it works. Then we've got, of course, the little water what do we call this? It is a cauldron, right? A cauldron full of water that looks as though the sheep are drinking from it, that kind of thing. And then over to the side here where the smaller area is, we fenced it off now, and this is our food store, as I mentioned. So this is going to hold just a few bales of hay that won't have much function at all, but it's kind of just part of the lore, right? So we take the bales from here, put them into the sheep pen, and then replace them in this smaller area. So now that we're done with the sheep pen, we can move on to something else. And I think today we'll just spend some time looking at the builds in the village and try to bring Oasis away from these badly designed houses and into the future. We've got the beginnings of some pathways now leading outside of the 2 new homes that we built in Oasis. These are the fresh design builds, I guess, the ones that are using the textures that we want to eventually revert everything to in the village. And I think I've decided now that what we'll do, instead of being a bit more random with the pathways, we'll make sure that they're all 3 wide and that in every pathway there are no grass blocks. There are just the texture blocks that we're using to complete the paths. And I will continue to link up the houses and such to the builds. We should probably throw something down there maybe just to ensure that it stays consistent and looks like the building actually has some foundations. What block did we have there? Was that coarse dirt? It wasn't, was it? It was a pathway. That's why I had to put one down there. How did I forget that? So if we do that, look, there you go. You can see the sandstone down there now instead of the dirt, which is better in my opinion. Even though it's such a small change, it will make a difference in the long run. I think over here as well, we will just do a couple things here, like add in some extra pathways that lead over to the storage area behind the house or to the side of the house. Just for consistency, make sure everything's connected. So let's do that, and then we'll have a bit of gravel. If we've got some, we do. We'll have a bit of gravel there. And then over here, probably just go with the double podzol. So where is the podzol? There it is. Grab that and pop that there. There we go, that works. So now the pathways are linked up with everything important. And we'll continue off in this direction, link this house up as well, and then we'll think about another build. So I think on the agenda next is to tackle this big communal area. So I want to try and build something a bit bigger so that we have a bit more freedom to express some different design choices. And I think this will be perfect, right? Because this is the communal room. It's got a couple of beds in it, some tables, some chairs, that kind of thing. It's very open and very plain though, so we need to do something about that once we rebuild it, of course. But I think for now, what we'll do is we'll begin to tear it down. So usually what I do is I leave the corners in place so that we can see about how big it was. Because I kind of want to, as I say all the time, I keep repeating this, but I do want to keep everything sort of in terms of dimensions the same. And then once we've changed everything that was originally in the village, then we can start adding sort of our own artistic license to things and building buildings in areas in which there were none before. So this one is going to remain largely the same in terms of scale and size. So we will just leave the corners in, as I say, just to make sure that we can keep things relatively the same. But I will be tearing this all down and then reverting it to, or not reverting it because it never did use these textures, but I'll be changing it to the textures that we've used for the wall, for the houses over there, for the sheep pen, and just make it fit the theme a little bit more than it does at the moment. I've got a basic floor plan up together for our communal housing unit here, and I think it works. It looks pretty good so far, and I'm actually kind of surprised with myself because I don't usually come up with stuff like this, but I will explain in a second. Let me just continue laying the flooring down. We're going to be using the acacia planks once again, just because I like the orange of them, and we're using acacia elsewhere, so it just makes sense to continue the theme like this. So from the off, you can see it's on stilts, this thing, or it has a foundation of sorts anyway, which is different to the smaller homes that we've got over there. This communal house originally had a foundation and stairs to the door, so I thought I would continue with that idea, try to make something of our own that, of course, is similar, and I think we've achieved that so far. We do need to lay some extra planks, some extra logs underneath like this to continue that design style, but we will get that done in due course. And then out the back here, we're going to have an extra set of stairs here and another door that leads out into a small garden area. I'm not sure what we're going to do with it yet, but this is the part that surprised me, right? Because I don't usually come up with things like this, like having small garden areas and extra stairs and doors and that kind of thing. So I'm quite proud of myself on this one. I will say that. So let me continue here. The flooring is down. The foundations are in place. We shouldn't have too much difficulty now expanding from this point, or I hope we don't anyway, because you know, we've got this far, and as I say, having the foundations in place is a major player in getting everything tied in and complete. So we will, as I say, work on this, try and get it looking as good as possible, hopefully build it up nicely, and once it's complete, I'll bring you guys back in to view the final product. So again, you guys, I'm quite proud of what we've came up with here. I will display it to you in just a second after I've stuck some roof blocks on this thing, and I think what we'll do for the roofs in this area is just to use the slabs, because well, again, there's an explanation for this. Because we are in the desert and the desert doesn't experience rain very often at all, there is no need for sloped roofs, because sloped roofs were designed to filter water down into a guttering system, which then of course takes the water away from your house instead of dampening the roof and making it more heavy and prone to collapses, that type of thing. So that is why we're going to stick with the flat roofs here, because we can get away with it since there is no rain in the desert, or very little rain in the desert. I don't think it even rains in the desert at all actually in Minecraft, so we can go ahead and say that there is absolutely no rain in the desert. So for that reason, we will be using the flat roof style. Let me just go ahead and finish that up. There are a few more blocks to place in, and we might change and adapt it ever so slightly in just a second, but here is what we've got so far. So the very front of the building looks like this. We're using, once again, the fence posts as windows, that kind of thing, you know, just so that it's open and airy, because in the desert you don't want to have, you know, double glazing windows that have vacuums in the middle that insulate the place, because otherwise it'll get boiling hot inside. So we don't have those. We have the fence posts, and then on the sides here we have windows that look something like this. Again, making use of the fence posts, however this time we have some stairs in the corner to give it a shape, and then a few, once again, trapdoors just to line the windows ever so slightly. The garden is yet to be completed, but we will work on that in a second. And in the back here we have a few more windows, so they're again using the fence posts and some trapdoors. We might hang a few more lanterns off of the support beams here in the future, and right above the door we just have a couple slabs to leave a nice open gap like that. I think it works well just for a bit of a change to the usual fence post that we've been using, and then inside is very plain at the moment. Nothing is going on here at all, so we need a couple of beds. Let's see about bringing those white ones back and possibly dyeing them if we have the dye available, because as you know, we're trying to use yellow beds across the village here. I think it fits with the theme quite well. So let's see. We've got a bunch of yellow wool if we don't have the dye, but there's 2 beds there. And then do we have the dye anywhere on hand? If not, we need a couple of dandelions, right? So let's see what we've got. We've got an oxeye daisy. Aha, there we go. 2 dandelion. Craft those up, and I believe we can just do this. There we go, and then pop the other one in. Perfect, we've got our 2 beds. So we'll probably place more beds in this communal house because it does have the size to warrant that, and it can of course it can occupy more than two villagers at a time. So we'll go ahead and put 2 beds right at the back there. We might get a couple more in here somewhere or over here, but we'll think about it in just a second. The door might get in the way ever so slightly just because it is bang in the middle of this area here. Maybe. Yeah, no, I think that was probably the best place for it, but we will think about getting some beds in. We might be able to create some bunk beds or something like that over in the corners here, because I think villagers are able to use bunk beds if built correctly. But I like the way this turned out. As I say, we need to get some lighting in there as well, so we'll think about just making those slight changes, and then once again I'll bring you guys back in to see how things have developed and turned out. Okay guys, so let's take a look. The inside, just as a quick warning, isn't too detailed. I think we'll come back and do details at a later stage because I'm really not great at that type of thing. Really not great at interior design. So at the moment we just dumped some beds in there, so let's take a look. And there you go, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've already got some guys in here sort of thinking about breeding, and that's nice. So on the outside we've stuck a few lanterns here and there. We didn't put any up on this side just to have a few differences, but we've got a couple here and there. So let's go through into the garden because I'm quite pleased with how this turned out. So we've got this small pathway that leads, of course, to the fence gate and also in the other direction and takes us over to this small storage area, which I added in instead of having the overhang above the window here. So I've sectioned the window off into two different windows now, and there's a roof over the top of the bales of hay, which is a small storage area, or at least supposed to be a small storage area. And then just off to the side we've got this small farm area where they are farming the hay, which of course is being transported over here and formed into bales. And we've gone ahead and put a few of the floor textures in again just to make it look like the bales of hay are carrying some dampness, some wetness, and they're affecting the ground beneath them. And the path sort of just leads through into that area with a nice little lantern in there as well. So, as I say, I really like how this turned out. I think this is one of the cooler builds I've ever came up with in this sort of setting where we're coming together to build a village up. I think to just top off the build, we should complement it with the path design outside as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So here it is, guys, the final product. And I have to tell you, I love it. The pathways definitely complement the build. It's similar to this over here. I'll give you a better vantage point of this area in just a second from on top of the church, which you'll like. But for now, we're looking at this, of course. So as I say, the pathway really complements the build, and altogether, it looks great, I think. If you guys have any feedback on this, of course, let me know, and any suggestions for changes, also give me those, because as I say, when I'm building in these 3D environments outside, I'm not the best, I'm not the greatest, because I don't do it often. I often build in caves, as you guys know. So sometimes I can get things wrong, and I'm open to criticism and changes, that type of thing. So do let me know if there's anything you want me to add or change. But with the pathway, as I say, it looks great. So let's go get that vantage point from the church, because I like to look down at the 2 houses we built here as well. And with the pathways in front of them, it really is shaping up to be something quite cool. So eventually we want to take that path probably down the side of the building here as well, just to link it up to the garden area, which has its own path running through it, as I showed you earlier. So we will take another path going down there and maybe flatten out the turf around that side as well. But for now, things are looking great. And we've also got the pathway over at the sheep farm. So let's take a look at that one. We could probably get the same vantage point as we did for the communal area. And once again, it's looking really, really cool. I really like how the path brings it together. And once we have all of this linked up and a bunch of buildings in the area, Oasis is going to look amazing. And I can't wait to see it in its final form. But before we wrap up the video here today, guys, I got a couple more things to show you. And these are kind of exploration based. So I will be right back in just a second. So I have 2 things to show you. And the first one is down in this cave here, which is inside the boundaries of Oasis since the wall was built. So if we come down here and just quickly run through, it shouldn't take too long to find what we're looking for. If I can remember where it was, I'm pretty sure it was off in this direction, down through here, and then down here. Aha, here it is. So mossy cobblestone naturally forming. You guys know what this is already. It's a skeleton spawner, which is awesome. The best kind of spawner in the game, in my opinion, or the most useful in terms of loot. So let's just clear this out and check out what we've got in the chest. We've got 13 and cat. I think I have both of those already. We've got some bones and a bucket. That can be useful. So yeah, this is something that we could put to use eventually in the area. A nice skeleton spawner, which is just under the village. As you guys could see, the caveway leads down here, and there is the surface. So on to the next thing that I want to show you that is based around exploration. Okay, so for the second thing, we're going to have to do a bit of flying. So if we go out over the trap here and off in this direction, we should just be able to head straight and find this. It doesn't take too long to get there, so give us just a moment and we will eventually come across it. So we fly over the top of the desert village here, which I haven't explored just yet, so we might have to go check that out eventually. And then there is also a desert temple, but this is not what we're looking for. What we are looking for is coming up very, very shortly. There it is. So look at this generation. This is insane. This is what I love to see in Minecraft. This is my favorite kind of generation. The generation that allows you to sort of fly through the mountains like this. You go underneath. There's mobs spawning. It's dark. There are cavernous areas. And I think what I want to do eventually is once we've sort of ran our time over at the ravine base, I want to come over here and make a base in this formation here, because I think there's endless possibilities, and this is very, very inspirational terrain generation, or at least it is for me. I don't know about you guys, but I find this sort of stuff really, really cool to look at. And as I say, the possibilities here would be absolutely endless. So eventually I do want to come over here and build something, maybe a base that sort of sprawls throughout the area. That would be kind of cool. And it just, yeah, as I say, flying around this is so much fun, just going in and out of the caves, that type of thing. But that was it for the sort of exploration type things that I wanted to show you guys. So I will catch you in just a second to wrap this episode up. Alright you guys, so it is time to say goodbye and wrap up episode 111 of the Minecraft Let's Play series. I do hope you enjoyed what you saw today. I had a bunch of fun as per usual creating the builds that we did in this episode, and also just having a little bit of a play around and mess around, that kind of thing, getting some design work in. As I say, if you enjoyed the episode, then please be sure to drop a like. That will be much appreciated by myself. Also, any questions, suggestions, comments, any feedback, anything like that should be directed to the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to respond to you. Finally, if you're new around here, then be sure to subscribe. Click that red button to stay tuned to this series and any other videos that we decide to post to the channel. Once again, you guys, I'm very grateful that you've taken time out of your day to come and watch my video. It's always good to have you here. The support is much appreciated. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.